Who are these people?
Now, played a little tongue-in-cheek here with the thumbnail. That's the South African Prime Minister, and obviously that's Putin. Um, so I titled this No Way Out for South Africa. So you might not know this, but BRICS is going to hold a major summit during the summer. I'm sure we're going to cover that when the time comes. Um, but South Africa is in trouble in relation to Putin. And I'm sure I didn't even hear of this specific issue regarding South Africa and as it relates to Putin. I'm not sure if you have heard anything like this. But basically, this article is taken from The Guardian, written by Patrick Wintour, where he writes, South Africa may seek way out of hosting BRICS summit over Putin's arrest. Pretoria would be required to arrest Putin if he attended and send him to The Hague for trial on war crime charges. Okay. So let's continue. South Africa may abandon its role as host of this year's BRICS summit in an attempt to avoid international pressure to arrest the Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is wanted by the International Criminal Court on charges of war crimes. Have you heard?
Yeah, slightly, a little bit.
You would think that would be more major, talked about a little bit more, honestly.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything of this at all until we pulled this article over the weekend. But yeah, but anyway, in a flurry of diplomatic activity around Ukraine, South Africa, with 5 other African states, is trying to garner support for a new peace plan. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa on Saturday briefed Chinese leader Xi Jinping on the upcoming visit by African leaders to Russia and Ukraine in an attempt to end hostilities. China has its own peace mission underway, and it's not clear what the Africa mission might add. Ramaphosa has recruited Zambia, Senegal, Congo, Uganda, and Egypt to join his peace delegation. As a party to the Rome Statute, the treaty underpinning the court, Pretoria will be required to arrest Putin and then send him to The Hague for trial. But China and India, if they hosted the summit, would not face the same obligation, leading some South African officials to suggest handing the summit to Beijing. Brazil, the 5th member of BRICS, is also a party to the court, so faces the same dilemma as South Africa. Ukraine hopes to capitalize on the proliferation of peace plans emerging from the global south by staging a peace conference in July, possibly in Denmark, at which it will set out its terms for a settlement to the conflict. The aspiration is that by then, Ukraine's counteroffensive would have changed the dynamic of the war. Yeah, right. And Kyiv hopes the global south will realize that Russia needs to leave Ukraine to avoid further bloodshed. The Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen has already said he is willing to host such an event. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would speak on Sunday to the Polish resident Andrzej Duda about a dinner. Duda intends to attend on Monday with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the French President Emmanuel Macron, focused on Ukraine's bid for NATO membership at a summit in Vilnius, I guess is how you say it.
What day are they talking to Duda? Otherwise known as the Duda Day?
The three leaders are expected to discuss the post-war security guarantees that can be offered to Ukraine and how specific a route map to NATO membership can be offered. Zelensky said, "Let's hope that our colleagues are thinking about how to speed up Ukraine's ascension to NATO. Or not. Let's see."
We already know that that's not happening. They've already said that's not happening. They said no. They've always said no. Okay.
In an unprecedented speech in Bratislava this month, Macron not only held out an homage to Eastern European states he has criticized in the past, including Poland, but proposed guarantees to Ukraine that match those provided by the U.S. to Israel. The guarantees would not necessarily be provided by NATO itself, but by NATO member states. Okay. He said Ukraine warranted strong, concrete, and tangible security guarantees and argued that it should be offered a path towards membership. However, Schlotz struck a different tone, saying last Thursday that the focus should not be on NATO membership. He said, "It is also clear that we will have to discuss what security guarantees can be provided in a post-war situation. The exact nature of the offer that could be made to Ukraine is complicated by the fact that when the NATO members meet, the contents may have changed depending on the perceptions of the state of the counteroffensive currently underway.
Ukraine
could not be offered NATO membership while at war with Russia, since that would require the alliance taking on a commitment to go to war with Moscow."
Yep.
U.S. envoy to NATO, Juliet Smith, told Politico last week, "I think the allies now are in agreement that a proper invitation is unlikely while they're engaged in a full-scale war."
Pause. They've always said it's been unlikely. NATO has continually said no.
This is just
yeah, it's
this is just the kabuki theater in the sense that BRICS is actually moving towards peace talks.
Yes.
So
yeah, but they still have to,
Putin's a madman.
Like they still have to run with that,
Right. So basically,
and they may find
now,
that he's willing to go through this fucking trial and see that he hasn't committed the he might be just all right. We'll play it out. We'll see.
Right. So this is just the West basically playing games in terms of trying to beat BRICS to the punch, in terms of going, or at least talking around the idea of actually, some sort of peace treaty among Ukraine and Russia in order for Ukraine, in the unlikelihood of getting NATO membership. But yeah, but as you keep saying, it's not going to happen. So I don't know why they keep. Well, anyway, let's continue. At the same time, the fear is that if the Litmus summit sends out a weak signal to Ukraine, that may encourage Putin to believe Western support is wavering and that he could ultimately win the war or at least achieve a frozen conflict. Poland wants the focus to be on guarantees that can be provided before membership, covering ammunition production inside Ukraine, to continuing supply of arms and air power to Ukraine, and the interoperability of Ukraine and NATO weaponry. U.S. President Biden is also being urged to make progress on the issue at Litmus rather than wait until next year's NATO summit in Washington, which will fall in the middle of an election campaign consumed by the question of whether the U.S. should extend its defense commitments with Europe.
Villeneuve, I think.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, this is just war theater to block BRICS at the punch in terms of talking some sort of peace settlement with Russia regarding Ukraine, but scaring South Africa in terms of, if Putin attends this summit, then he'll have to go to trial. Which, funny enough, why hasn't Biden gone to trial for the crimes he has committed? Or Obama? That's even better. For war crimes he has committed.
Because
you got no friends in Washington, D.C.
I do. I've got Care Bear, but because NATO, that doesn't fit with their narrative.
No.
So whatever. I think they're going to find that BRICS is going to have a lot more play than they think here.
Right.
I think with our last two stories, that's definitely a case. They hold resources, they hold knowledge, their infrastructure is better than ours.
Right. And they're having more countries who are interested in
joining. Like, hey, you might win this. Like,
right.
And they're gonna have to choose sides. Which, if we're gonna force all these things to do that, the issue is that we don't want a multipolar world. We want us to be the top of the fucking totem. So they don't like having more leaders to capitulate to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's they have most of the world's population here. Like, you want to talk about China, India, Russia, like a lot of Africa, a lot of South America. Like, if that's what they're going to do to like stop NATO's only a small group in that regard of mostly again, isolated island countries.
And again, if countries like Iran kind of come into the mix with nuclear powers,
capabilities,
that's not going to bode well.
Yeah.
For NATO in general. So
yeah, what's happened is we've let these, after the Cold War, all these places that we had economic sanctions after World War II, when everyone was broke, we tried bankrupting them too, have now rubber banded, come back, have the resources, got their crap together, and they're holding their own better than us, who've just been spending money militarily and at the edge of our empire for, I don't know, decades now. So to the point where our own infrastructure here is failing and we might not be able to feed our population effectively.
Right.
Like, if people have learned, Russia's strength is just stonewalling militaries. Mm-hmm. Like, feel free to try to invade through Siberia. Like, not easy. Ask Napoleon, ask Hitler, not going good for them.